Okay, so we've come together to moderate and discuss student submissions for the last assessment piece.
So we have the making of 3D collage, which is your students' assessment, and my students have done the making a decoration assessment.
Okay, we'll talk about the 3D collage, my assessment first. Students were asked to investigate, conceptualise, design and construct a 3D collage. They had to comply with the design brief, which also had artistic elements that needed to be satisfied, and they had to document the process and all their investigations in a creative design portfolio. This is a submission of one of my students. Overall it's quite good, it's very detailed and all the requirements have been satisfied. There's good step-by-step guide here. The materials and skills required and use of tools has all been well documented. The guide to learning here, the guide for making judgments. The A responses outlined is extensive investigation of collages and papier-mâché sculptures. Materials and techniques must be well documented and show evidence of these investigations and how they inform the practical application and artistic expression. It's important that they showed both elements. They had to demonstrate understanding and evaluation, and it had to be well documented in their diary. Had to be investigations and problem solving used, which resulted in positive amendments to the creative and constructive process. So that's an important self-assessment element.
Okay.
And here there had to be extensive and well documented identification of the skills and experience they would gain, and they then had to say how that would be recognised in future applications.
Okay, overall I think her research is quite extensive, and she's showed good self-assessment skills and also a good understanding of the skills that she's gained from this assessment. So really I think she has good evaluation elements in this task.
I agree, I think it was well detailed and all of the elements were addressed.
Do you think, are there any ways you think she could have improved?
She could probably have made her responses more concise. There's a bit of information here that didn't need to be there.
Okay. I think I agree with you, and I think in the self-assessment area perhaps, you know, she maybe could have come up with some ways to improve on the assessment task instead of saying that it, you know, was an all-round good assessment, but apart from that.
Okay, I think with regard to the guide to making judgments and the essential learnings, I think she's definitely analysed and evaluated the project and identified the skills that she has gained and how she'd apply them in future applications. Her plan shows that she's considered the brief and the materials, and it's a realistic plan.
Okay. I think in regards to the essential learnings and how they relate to the assessment as well, she's developed ideas which are appropriate to the audiences and kept those in mind, which is very important. She's also applied safe practices to the tools and techniques and materials that she's used, and that in turn is keeping her classmates safe as well. And there's good use of symbolism throughout this project, which really links it all together.
I would probably be inclined to classify this response as an A. I think the reflection's good, her evaluation's all accurate. I'm happy that the design aspects and the arts aspects have been met. Yeah, I'd go an A standard.
I agree with you. I think it's also an A response. She's adhered to the criteria, and a lot of her responses throughout this task have focused on the essential learnings, which is positive.
Okay, well now
we'll look at my one, the making a decorations assessment. So students were asked to investigate, design and make a decoration using appropriate symbols and colours for use at a time of family celebration, and then reflect on the process and evaluate not only their own work but peers as well. So the implementation, we'll just look at her production plan. So within her production plan, she designed the decoration first by drawing it. Then she went through and figured out what materials she needed. So we have cardboard, glue, coloured paper, paint, ribbon, string. And then she also chose the tool she was going to use, so what she would need for this assessment, so scissors, a hole punch and a stapler. Safety is a really big part of this assessment, and she recognised that the scissors and the stapler were probably the ones that, you know, could be the most dangerous or risky. Then she went on to do her production plan, which was 9 steps ranging from draw the decoration, cut it out, paint the cardboard, cut the ribbon string, glue it all together, wait for it to dry, and hang the decoration on the wall. So I'm happy that she's recognised the different steps throughout the production process.
Okay. The guide to making judgment on this assessment.
Okay, so the guide to making judgment, for an A response, extensive documentation of planning, investigation, research and recognition of skills. Also the understanding of evaluation and reflection is really important in this task. Sound problem solving skills, working with materials and tools and design processes. Also the ability to recognise improvements in the design for the next assessment or the next time she makes this. Also especially safe practices with materials and tools and the techniques to use these.
Okay. Overall, I think she's used good research techniques and communicated the design really well. She's got some good labelled diagrams.
She probably could have put a bit more thought into the reflection of her own work, and I think that's hard for the early years, the early primary years, to put a lot of thought into the reflection of their work. She could have perhaps brainstormed a few more ideas on how to make the decoration better next time.
I probably also would have liked to see an improvement in her art skills. The diagrams were quite good and well labelled, but I think they could have been clearer in parts. Some of them were a little bit confusing.
Okay. I think she's used some good aspects of arts to show feeling and emotion in the decoration. For example, red being linked to Valentine's Day and love. So she's made that connection, which is good, and I'm really happy about that. She has a good plan for production, and she's used appropriate tools, techniques and materials to create the desired outcome.
Yeah, I think her evaluation and reflection skills were really good. She was able to identify areas where she could have made adjustments and to improve the process, which at the end of the day is what that element is for.
So I am thinking that this is definitely an A-level response. She's got a good production plan. She stuck to the steps. She showed good investigation and research skills in figuring out what decoration to make and how that fitted into her family. Although Valentine's Day isn't classified as a massive celebration within families, for her that has a bit of meaning within her family, so I'm happy that she chose that.
Okay, I'd be happy to classify this as an A standard as well. I think she's met the requirements of the A standard on the guide to making judgments, so yeah, no, I agree. I think it would be an A standard.
Okay. In regards to sequential learning, I guess I'd like to, from here, probably look at some different celebrations that students have come up with. Their families celebrate. We have some Chinese students in the class that celebrate Chinese New Year, so perhaps, exploring and looking at some of those religious and international celebrations to give the kids, that bit more of a cultured feel.
Okay, with the learning sequence after the 3D collage, I think a really valuable tool that we would have got out of these is what the different cultures and the different kids' backgrounds that we have, and that would all be documented on the collages. So I think we could delve further into those and give maybe consideration to the origination of technologies and where they came from, and just pick some out of those cultures, because that would be a relevant context to the kids in the class, because that's their ethnicity.
Okay, well, I think that's it, and we're done. Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you.